Not long ago, wearing real fur was a signal of wealth and status. Now, it's a signal of ignorance. In contrast, fake fur is inexpensive, but it displays status linked by awareness about climate crisis and importance of sustainability. This is an excerpt from The Business of Aspiration by strategist Anna Angelic. The book explores how the modern aspiration economy changes brand strategy. When we think of how brands relate to their audiences, it's usually from a lords and peasants perspective. Corporate overlords in high towers dictating what we should like and what we should consume. Brands have always been the curators of culture, and they've always been the creators of aspiration. Recent events in the last decade have given a rise to marginalized groups, and through the help of social media, they have been able to amplify their voices. When women, especially Black women, started taking back the narrative that their curvy bodies were unattractive and undesirable, the body positivity movement was born. This movement is believed to have roots in the fat acceptance movement of the 1960s, which promoted the civil rights of fat people in the United States. The movement grew as a resistance to the ever-growing weight loss industry, which was estimated to be worth $278.95 billion by the end of 2023. As the body positivity movement gained traction in mainstream media with much help from social media, the weight loss industry rebranded itself to the wellness industry, which is honestly just as toxic, and that's some BS we'll talk about another day. But that was obviously not enough. Fat-shaming language is still very much prevalent in the mainstream media.
I think it's time for you to start to seriously consider salads.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? Get off my car before you flip it over, you fat fuck.
And diet culture is still being pushed by brands through the imagery that they use and the type of models and influencers that they decide to partner with. They might not be using the words anymore, but the message is still being delivered. A brand that has been held to the fire for their toxic practices has been Victoria's Secret. The fall of VS was slow and painful to watch, as women called for inclusivity in brands that cater to women and young girls especially, to stop catering to the male gaze, but to make brands that are catered to women about what women want, which you would think is obvious. And as the body positivity movement grew on social media as well as mainstream media, the brand fell under more criticism, and eventually the criticism made them buckle. The brand started seeing a decrease in sales, a decline in TV ratings for their show, and an overall negative public perception due to women being tired of how outdated their messaging was and how the brand did not represent them. Their market share started declining and stock value crashing. In 2019, the iconic Victoria's Secret runway show was cancelled, and we saw the Angels being replaced by a new group of women, the VS Collective. The VS Collective is a more inclusive and diverse set of women that will advocate for the brand as ambassadors. The images of the Angels were phased out in stores and the website. Mannequins are more diverse in their body shape and sizes, and they even included a maternity line. That will not be the first or the last time that a movement born on social media would take down a large corporation. At their peak, they had 1,100 stores across North America, $7.7 billion in global sales, and 10 million viewers for their runway show. This movement gave birth to more inclusive brands like Savage X Fenty, which was honestly a breath of fresh air within the lingerie industry. Their debut runway show included models of all shapes, sizes, and colors, and they still presented them as sexy. With Rihanna's efforts always gearing towards inclusivity, the launch of Fenty Beauty was named one of the most important inventions of 2018 by Time magazine. The experiences of Black people within the beauty industry are significantly more frustrating than that of non-Black people. Darker-skinned people have been discriminated against in the beauty industry for decades. The launch of Fenty Beauty in 2018 turned the industry upside down. It put a spotlight on brands that have existed literally for hundreds of years, but never really made the effort to be more inclusive to darker-skinned people. Creators like Jackie Aina and Naima Tang, who created the Darker Shade series, have been putting beauty brands under fire for years, calling them out for not even trying. Black brands make up only 2.5% of the revenue in the beauty industry, but black consumers are responsible for 11.1% of total beauty spending in the United States. Many of these brands claim that darker-skinned people did not buy their products, but they really did fail to realize that they never catered to them in the first place. In a focus study conducted by McKinney & Company, they found that many beauty advertisements, regardless of whether they were on TV, in print, or online, did not resonate with black audiences because they neither portrayed a diverse population nor spoke to the people with more melanin in their skin. Fewer than half of the respondents in the group had positive feelings towards advertisements from non-black beauty companies, saying that they didn't feel represented. Instead of these companies realizing that they were leaving money on the table by neglecting an entire demographic, it took black women creating their own brands to make them realize the value of the black customer. Social movements are obviously not only a fight for body acceptance and inclusivity. The fight for our environment and sustainability has been an ever-growing movement that really started from niche groups like vegans, thrifters, fashion flippers, dumpster divers, and DIY restorers. Any effort to reduce and recycle has created new niche groups that drive the effort towards sustainable, cruelty-free consumption. These niche groups have had an impact on multi-billion-dollar industries such as the food industry as well as the fashion industry. As a millennial, I grew up seeing fur coats and genuine leather goods as a status symbol. I might not have known what it meant as a kid, but alligator skin was a thing. One of the most expensive bags in the world is the Hermes crocodile skin Birkin. All these items, coupled with their high price tags, symbolically put one in a different class than those who don't have them. But now, with animal cruelty activism and sustainability activists, luxury brands have had to relook their practices. Many brands have been criticized for their purse-slashing practices that were done to create exclusivity. The luxury brand Coach went under fire in 2021 after a viral TikTok exposed their wasteful slashing of unsold items.
Welcome to my first unboxing video. So excited to show you all the Coach purses that I bought from Dumpster Diving Mama. As you can see, they're all slashed, which is Coach's policy. This is what they do with unwanted merchandise. They order an employee to deliberately slash it so no one can use it. And then they write it off as a tax write-off under the same tax loophole as if it were accidentally destroyed. Coach actually has a repair program for their bags, hopefully their shoes too. So I'm gonna bring some of these into Coach and ask them to repair it for me. Because according to their website, they really care about the circular economy and they really care about sustainability. They're a publicly traded company, but this is not disclosed anywhere. See, don't ditch it, repair it, Coach says. Repair your bags. It's another small thing we can do to keep bags out of landfill and reduce our impact on the planet. Coach is working to make fashion circular.
In a Vogue business article, the global head of digital and sustainability, June Silverstein, says that Coach has been working actively to avoid the practice, which is an ongoing problem in the wider fashion industry. She also said that finished goods destruction is a very common industry practice, though of course that does not make it right. She continues to say, I can't speak for other brands, but one of Coach's goals has been zero destruction, and that is what we're striving for. Organizations like PETA are loathed in the fashion industry, but they have had many wins. Now big brands like Burberry, Michael Kors, Donatella Versace, Giorgio Armani, Gucci's Alessandro Michele, and Marco Bizzarri have all recently made pledges to never use fur in their collections again. Of course, fashion insiders would never credit these organizations that have been throwing tomato soup and tofu pies at their industry's most prominent figures for these efforts. Instead, they credit a hyper-socially conscious generation of millennials who believe we should be able to experience luxury without contributing to animal suffering, which only emphasizes the next quote from The Business of Aspiration. When the consumer value calculus is different, so is the business. Desirability of something is today decoupled from its price, and its access is decoupled from wealth. Instead, it's coupled with social capital, environmental creds, cultural savviness, a story, belonging, and its potential to make us better humans. Brands need to pay attention to how consumers spend their time and their money, how they relate to each other, and how these social processes create new forms of cultural, social, and environmental capital. Anna also suggests that brands can use these social movements to their advantage, and they can utilize these niche groups. She has 4 points on how they can do this, but I'll focus on 2. First, start with empathy for a particular group and their particular tastes. If there's a group of people who would like to participate in your brand and actually bring value to your brand, there's no reason not to bring them into the experience. Especially if involving them won't even steer you away from your main brand values. And number 2, introduce creative flexibility. Being able to see changes as they happen and not clinging onto old ideals would have saved Victoria's Secret, and they really wouldn't have had to go out that bad. One of the heads in the company, Lex Wexner, was quoted saying, "Plus-size models and trans models were not part of the fantasy of Victoria's Secret." But he failed to see that his fantasy did not fit into the new world that his brand existed in. Which leads to my closing quote. Real generosity towards the future lies in giving it all to the present. The future is hidden in our present, in what we value, who we gather around and pay attention to, what we support, and what we rally against. The real challenge for marketers is to detect the mood while it is happening. Thank you so much once again for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, interact with the video in any way that you please. I really love to hear from you guys, and I will see you again next week.